The World Cup final is set. After a nail-biting semi-final match between Argentina and England, the reigning champions come from behind to secure another chance to lift the trophy. They will face Spain on Sunday in New Jersey, but today they were in Atlanta. That is where Christian Jack is. Oliver Platt, Gareth Wheeler, and Annie Petrillo with you here for Bet365 for the win. A beautiful home for the beautiful game. Let's begin with you, KJ, in the building there, and just curious to know how Argentina was able to once again pull off a comeback here, as we know in that game against Egypt, even though they were coming on strong here against England, to get the goal, then to get the go-ahead and avoid going into extra time. How did they do it?
Yeah, how did they do it? I'm in awe, to be fair. You know, I'm still sitting here and blessed to be in the stadium. There's about 15,000 fans still singing away an hour after the game. How did they do it is a question we keep asking about Argentina. There'll be time to dissect England, and we're going to get to that pretty soon, I think, about whether England contributed to it. But this is a champion in every regard, a champion that is very, very difficult to dethrone. A champion that continues to have that aura and mystique and mentality. And when you're a champion and you're a true winner, you have those kind of habits and instincts that you'll never beat no matter what. And despite, you know, throwing on many strikers at the end and changing the shape of formation and just throwing everything at it, they were never beat. And the 1-1 goal, I think, was the real turning point, because then the strength of the mentality came to the fore after that as well, to go for the throat of England. So just a truly, utterly, truly remarkable side that have got their flaws technically, but mentally are very, very tough.
It was wild to watch, because over the course of this tournament, I think we've seen an Argentina side that's beatable, that's very vulnerable. And that's part of their story. This team is relentless. They go out and find goals, sometimes out of nothing. I mean, in this game, there was no doubt about it that the goals were coming. It was a matter of when, not if. And the when came far too soon for England, and they were completely unable to hold on. And although Lionel Messi and the Argentine barrage is a significant part of the story, it's not the lead story. It's not the headline. It's how England were culpable in their own demise. There is no doubt that England were in a position to not only dispatch of Argentina, but they could have done so in style. Instead, they reverted to old techniques, old tactics. The reason why Thomas Tuchel was brought to England, so they wouldn't fall upon past mistakes. You remember devastating England losses of the past, 1990, losing in penalties at Italia 90 to West Germany. 2018, they go up a goal against Croatia. Even the Euro final, scoring early against Italy and then throwing that away. And Gareth Southgate was raked over the coals because of it. And Thomas Tuchel will be very much of the same ilk. I mean, this loss is on the manager. Going so defensive not only signaled to his players far too early in the game that they were willing to park the bus and just try to hold on for what they had, but there was no outlets to break either. After England went up through Anthony Gordon in the 55th minute, Argentina had 88% of possession. 88. This is an England team that should be more than capable of holding on and keeping the ball and making life miserable for Argentina. For me, they just handed it over to them. That's not to take anything away from the greatness of Argentina, because KJ is absolutely right. This is a great team. They've scored 2 or more goals in 13 straight World Cup games, which is an incredible statistic. But on this day, on the balance of it, the headline is Thomas Tuchel and his failed tactics, his flawed tactics, which directly led to more disappointment for England.
Well, I know Ollie's dying to sink his teeth into the England story as well, but let's just remain with the winners here, Ollie, for a second. And Argentina, and just their ability to, I mean, this is their third final in the last 4 World Cup editions. Obviously, you know, there's some constants on that team, and Lionel Messi obviously being one of them. But what do you think, you know, made them special on this day?
Look, they're a great side. Copa America win, World Cup win, Copa America win. Now back in the World Cup final, they are a truly great side in terms of all-time international football, and there's no denying that. And as much as you might not like them much when you're playing against them, if your team is playing against them, you have to admire them. They're full of players with skill, tenacity, grit, not the most athletic side, to be honest with you. And I think that's what makes them all the more remarkable in the modern game, that they've been able to be as great as they are despite that. And they've got, for me, it's indisputable at this point. I can say for my lifetime, but I think probably all time as well, the greatest player who again delivers today with 2 assists and just in a remarkable way to turn this game around. But Wheels is right. I know we're skipping ahead here to England, but you cannot separate this comeback from England's performance in the second half, and it was gifted to them. Argentina did a brilliant job to take it, to accept the present that they were offered. But in all my time watching England at major tournaments, I don't think I've ever seen them throw away an opportunity like that. It was there for them. And I know people will say the Euros final against Italy when they had the leads, but, Italy had cruised through that tournament, were a very good team at that tournament. England didn't actually lose that game. They lost on penalties. The way in which they ceded everything here, the initiative and control of the game that I felt they had at 1-0, I've never seen anything like that. And I think these England players, and I don't put it on them, I think it's the manager's responsibility, are going to be absolutely ruining this one for the rest of their careers.
Yeah, Pickford had to come up with some very big saves near the end of that game, but it was just an onslaught even for him as we take a look at the full-time stats. What's crazy, and sorry to bring up 1966, but here's another really interesting stat. It's the first time since 1966 that we didn't actually see a shot on target through the first 45 minutes of a semifinal game. And then, of course, everything turned around in that second half. In fact, the first shot in general was accredited in the 33rd minute. So that second half, far more interesting. All right, guys, I'm going to give you what you want, and let's just dive fully into England here, because it's kind of interesting what you're saying. I mean, after that game that they played, the quarterfinal, where basically Thomas Tuchel came out and said the mentality was fine. The players just got lucky and they didn't really physically kind of had what it takes, to keep up with Norway, but they get through. And now it almost seems like, is this Thomas Tuchel getting inside his own head with this game here? That seems to be what I'm understanding from some of you. I'm curious where you are with that, KJ. Just how crushing this is for England, but also how much are you putting on the manager?
Well, it's a demoralizing defeat that these players will never get over. Never, as professionals, when you talk about their professional career. I want to talk about 2 things. First thing I want to talk about is anticipation, a key skill in life and a very key important skill in a World Cup. And England, for the best part of 55 minutes, were the best anticipators on the field. They read the game well. They scored the goal playing what they've done the entire game, going long, winning a second ball, having Rodgers on the field for a reason, his cross coming in, the wide players anticipating the ability to beat fullbacks, and anticipating Messi a lot, what he's trying to do by playing 1-2s. It was almost the ideal performance from an anticipation point of view. The second thing I want to talk about is evaluating your talent better than anybody else. As a manager, you have to evaluate your talent in any sport, coach, GM, better than anybody else. And I felt that Tuchel didn't evaluate the game and the talent that he needed to do at that moment. It almost seemed like there were pre-organized plans of what we're going to do if we're winning 1-0 that he planned ahead of the game. Instead of evaluating what was happening in front of his eyes, going into that hydration break in the second half, it was all there for them. Argentina threw on 3 subs. They threw everything at it, and England collapsed by not making the adjustments to Argentina's adjustments and just sacrificing everything. They stopped anticipating. They didn't believe in the ability for Kane and Bellingham, and in particular, Elliot Anderson, arguably England's finest player on the pitch, to take that game and control that game the way they'd done it for the best part of 3/4 of the match. And he didn't anticipate the quality that was in there, invited pressure, and more importantly, invited pressure to a team that is never beat. And that it makes it even more of a massive mistake for me.
He's gone on TV after the game and said his explanation is that after England scored, but before he made the subs, he felt that England were already becoming too passive and that Argentina were threatening at that point. So why on earth would you then make changes to make yourself even more passive? Like, how could that be the answer? Going to a back 5 if you feel your team is already ceding too much ground and not getting the pressure on the ball. that they have done in for the first 55 minutes of that game. I just don't understand that explanation. I think England were in exactly the position that they would have wanted to be in once they'd got that goal at 1-0. I thought they controlled the game very well, handled it very well up until that point. And then you think you've got a game where you can play on the break, and the superior athleticism of England can start to tell in open spaces. You've got players to bring off the bench who can inject that into the game as well. You've got both Argentina centre-backs on yellow cards, and they were utterly unable to capitalize on that. And I think that has to go down to Tuchel's decision to going to a back five as early as he did, to essentially just trying to do what you might do in the last 5 or 10 minutes with 30 minutes to go plus added time. I couldn't believe the decisions he made, and then ending the game essentially playing a back six with O'Reilly on there as well, as something of a left midfielder, but really dropping to left wing back. So it was crazy to watch for me, and a manager with a massive reputation and a lot of success in his past, who, as the guys have said earlier, I think was brought in to try and solve some of the issues of the past for England. Looked like he hadn't learned from them whatsoever.
It was a tactical abomination. That's what it was. Like, this Argentina side, in the way that game was playing out, they were ripe for the picking. They committed 12 fouls, Argentina did, in the first half, because they didn't want to play England straight up. And I think you make a good point, Ollie. What you need to do against Argentina is you need to deny the ability to get players like Messi, like McAllister, like Fernandez on the ball. So when he takes out Declan Rice out of the midfield and replaces with fullbacks, we saw what happened in the previous match when Jude Bellingham dropped too deep, and what that meant for the team shape and him as an individual. He just completely lost the plot. And all of the waves of pressure from Argentina wasn't coming from players necessarily getting behind the back. It was players getting on the ball 25, 30, 35 yards out and just having absolutely no pressure put on them. In the game of football in 2026 is predicated on pressure, getting it right, picking your moments. And it was just a complete dereliction of duty defensively. Well, why do you need to line up 6 guys across the back when they're coming in waves like that? I don't get it. And part of the consequence as well is England, and KJ alluded to it, Morgan Rogers on the right, Anthony Gordon on the left. They were really good outlets against a team that loves to clog the middle of the field. So instead, you brought those players, instead of having them forward, you brought them back, and they were just completely hemmed in. They spent a lot of money on Thomas Tuchel, but you also knew what you were getting into when you were hiring someone like Thomas Tuchel. Someone from a technical, tactical perspective sometimes gets in his own heads. He overthinks things. That could also mean sometimes that he alienates his players. The good comes with the bad with Tuchel. There's no doubt about it. But for him to deploy those kind of tactics in that kind of moment, it was just truly shocking to watch. And anyone, I don't care if you're KJ, like in the building today, or people watching across the globe, you just knew that the goal was coming for Argentina. And this was a team that when they score in bunches. I can't believe it played out that way, because England will never be in a better position to go on and win a game like that. Like, it was theirs for the taking. And instead, now the nation is being let down by the manager. And I don't know how Tuchel keeps his job at this point. Like, it is that much of a glaring weakness that it's very difficult to convince anyone that he should be back on that plane heading back to London.
So let's talk about that, because I'm sure you could do a list of pros and cons. And a lot of people thought he was very bold. And even when he selected his squad, and then after that first game and that big victory over Croatia, everyone was happy. But you're right. This is a game that mattered, KJ. This is why you have your manager be the guy and do what he needs to do to put the team in the best position possible to succeed. And it didn't pan out here today. So if you're looking at Thomas Tuchel right now and you have to make a decision on whether or not he stays with the team, what is your decision?
Well, they'd have to take some days to not be an emotional decision to make. But losing games when you're winning, first of all, is very difficult to do. You add major you add major tournaments to that. The swing is even further when you get a lead. Okay, so traditionally you take the lead in a football game, in a normal league game, the percentage of you winning that game is between 70 and 75% already. You add that to a World Cup semifinal, your percentage of chance of winning when you're winning 1-0 in the second half is over 80%. They lost the game inside the normal time. They're only the second team ever to lose a game this century in the semi-final by leading it. And the other one was England in 2018 under Southgate. So, like, they lost a Euro final to Italy when they took the lead in the second minute. Like, these are all historical failures. And Thomas Tuchel was brought in to replace that history with what obviously Gareth Southgate did a good job to get them in those positions. So to lose in that magnitude in a country like that expects so much more, with already the stuff going on with him and Bellingham beforehand, I think that plays a factor into it. I do. I think it'll be very difficult for him to survive this. Ultimately, that's why you're here. You had the World Cup final right there in front of you, 5 minutes away to win the game and to see it out, and you got beat. And ultimately, we could talk about the players. Maybe they're getting tired a little bit, but when you needed the manager to step up, he got it wrong.
Yeah, well, he's under contract through Euro 2028, so that was the original plan. I tend to agree with KJ. I think it's going to be very difficult for him to come back from this. I think he's going to be in for a lot of criticism in England off the back of this. The Bellingham thing does worry me. I know there are a lot of people who thought that was a bit of a media creation, and the reporter asking a question that might not have been totally clear as to what Tuchel had originally said, but you know, Bellingham didn't just kind of take a shot at him in the initial on-pitch interview. He then did it again after walking off the pitch, and maybe a bit of a deeper shot as well, kind of questioning his ability, not having not played himself to make that kind of assessment. So that did worry me a bit. I just don't think he's had a very good tournament. I thought the changes he made at halftime against Norway were pretty disastrous, to be honest. He was able to rectify that and bring it back, and the players were perhaps more pertinently. This game, I've already given my assessment of that and how I think he was culpable. And even some of the things where you can say he's had some bad luck, like Declan Rice clearly isn't fully fit and he struggled through this tournament. But I think we all knew that coming in. We knew that Rice was dealing with something and would need managing. Same with Saka. And I'm just not sure his squad selections have made any sense really in that context. He's brought Kobbie Mainoo, who has not featured in terms of central midfielders. You asked the question as to why another central midfielder wasn't selected, wasn't brought. Maybe he planned to bring play Reece James there, but James is a very injury-prone player as well. He's missed time at this tournament. There's just a lot of things I think that he's not got quite right. And look, you can give credit, as I think Southgate deserved credit, for getting the team to this stage. But ultimately, I think the big decisions he's got wrong, and again shown an inability to learn from some of the things that have cost England in the past.
I mean, Tuchel's come out post-match and say that they played a great game and he has no regrets. No regrets. What world are you living in? Like, again, I just get to football in 2026, Andy. Like, we'll watch a lot of football at all levels, whether it's international, club football in this country and beyond. Some teams do sit deeper at times in games, and usually it's a team that's playing against a team that's superior for them, and they're trying to hang on to what they have. I just look at that England team that was on the field at one point. They were the better side. And they just allowed, it created this path forward for Argentina. Harry Kane, by the way, said post-match that at 1-0, they seem to just try to hold on, and that's not good enough at this level. Here. He knew it. All the players knew it. And they must have been absolutely befuddled, wondering what was going on in the decisions that were being made from the touchline. Not their own decisions on the field, but the decisions that were being made on the touchline. But I just feel like this is emblematic. It represents the England football experience at the international level. Close, but just not quite. And then self-inflicted wounds. And then looking like inward at insufferable disappointment. Meanwhile, that was a perfect representation of what Argentina is all about. The resiliency, the passion, the guts, the talent, the decision-making. Scaloni, by the way, like we should mention him. When he made changes, he makes subtle changes to the team and brought on different players who were playing in a similar position, maybe in a little bit of a different way. And he waited till very late to bring on Lautaro Martinez, bringing on a striker for a defender. He picked his moments. Scaloni, once again, like he's done so many times in the build-up to the 2022 World Cup, and between that point and now, has got things right. That is often the difference at this level. A manager just being well worth his weight in gold, and another manager that's really difficult to explain the decision making process.
Because you can have a superstar on your team, but you have to make the right decisions around him. So, yes, his superstar is Lionel Messi. And let's talk a little bit about him because he does have those 2 assists today. So now, even though he's tied on goals with Mbappe at 8, he actually takes the lead in the Golden Boot race because of his 4 assists. And in fact, he's probably going to win the Golden Boot because Mikel Oyarzabal of Spain is at 5 goals. But unless he ends up going and scoring 4 in that final, this Golden Boot is going to Messi. Yeah, but here's this is true too. Mbappe played in that 3rd place game. That is true. But here's the other thing, KJ, when it comes to Lionel Messi, he's getting better with time, but it's almost like his wisdom too. It's not just physically being able to play the game, because BBC came out with the report yesterday saying that he has walked 40% of the time on the field. It's like he knows when to exert his energy. He knows, where to pick his moments. When we talk about his legacy, there just seems to be so much more than just the physical aspect. There's just the cerebral, the intelligence around the game as well when it comes to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute thrill of a joy to watch, and you can just feel it. The atmosphere changes. The fans here deserve a tremendous amount of credit as well, because the moment he gets the ball, they always rise. They'll bring more energy to the team. And they played a part. That's what football's about. Fans play a massive part in that momentum swing. However, as much as we can pour all the love on Messi, we have to say that Alvarez scored the goal against Switzerland, right? And when they needed it today, Fernandez scored the goal today, right? So, it's more than just Messi. And I think that's so important to define. And everybody talked before he scored a World Cup, when does this guy win a World Cup? It shows you today. He almost single-handedly won them a World Cup 4 years ago. But today they needed other players. Yes, he was able to pass that ball, but they needed those other players. That Fernandez goal is a fantastic strike. And without that, we're probably sitting here talking about England maybe hanging on. So other players and the true mentality of being able to do that. Messi is obviously the instigator to that, but they're just as I said, I'm in awe of their incredible ability to know how to win games.
Yeah, that's another thing about them, right? Just an incredibly intelligent team that is able to understand the game, understand space, understand where the opportunities are. As soon as England had kind of ceded the ground to them, I think they had the answers. They could have scored 2 or 3 goals before they eventually equalized, to be honest with you. And that, I think, is a big reason why Messi has been able to age so gracefully, is because he plays the game in his head as much as he does with his feet. And that part just tends to get better the older you get. And Scaloni as well, you have to give him an enormous amount of credit. I agree with Wheels on that. He's someone who I think has the kind of core and foundation of his team that doesn't really change much. But then for each individual game, and even within games as well, he's able to make sometimes very simple, obvious changes, but changes that help his team, to target certain players, certain spaces, just little adjustments that I think have been able to, at the start of games, turn games in his team's favor and then change them late on as well. So he's done an unbelievable job and is obviously now going to another World Cup final.
Well, I'll be quick for a change. Look, we didn't know that this was ever going to come for Argentina with Lionel Messi. Over the last decade, switched. He was about to step away out of frustration from the international game, just because it was a question whether he, as the focal point of Argentina, was going to be able to get things over the line. But there's been an incredible adjustment, commitment to the players and the staff and everyone involved in Argentina football to build around Lionel Messi. Innocuous fouls he's taken down. Every single player is up getting in the face of their opponent. They understand who their main man is, and things have changed. It's almost like they had to learn to lose with Messi before they've actually figured out how to win. And now, again, I maintain this isn't a great Argentina side. They're a vulnerable side. They're imperfect. But what makes them great is, KJ alluded to it, they find ways to win. It's not about how, it's about how many. They'll play and try to beat you in different ways, whether it's fouling players out of the game or taking the game to you, just in terms of waves of pressure. So I guess in a way I'm contradicting myself, because that's essentially what makes a team great, is finding a way to win. And oftentimes we look at the style points rather than the end result. I mean, this team is just about the end result, and there's some real value. There's something to cherish in that.
By the way, you're right, and this is what's absolutely crazy. Messi, after that 2016 Copa America, missing the penalty, quit the national team. And here we are a decade later talking about Copa wins, a World Cup win, and possibly another one here as they are going to the final. It will be Argentina versus Spain. As mentioned, Argentina, third time in 4 editions that they're going to the final. Spain, this is just their second time going to the final. Their first was 2010. Pretty good record so far because they won that one. As you remember, that was 1-0 over Netherlands. And you will have France and England playing for third. So yes, Mbappe, as I go back to the Golden Boot race, does still have a chance to overtake. Sorry, not that I'm trying to dismiss the third place. It really does matter.